Good morning, everyone. Happy Thursday. I'm the Grace Strega, and I'm here to give you your daily collective read for today, Thursday, February 29th, 2024. What do we have coming through in the cards for today? May I please have the first 5 cards in our 5-card spread? 2 cards popping out today. And I don't want anyone to get stressed out because what do we have coming through right now? This is really important, okay? Don't get stressed. We've got devil energy here, but we've also got 9 of swords. Why are these cards coming up right now? Because we cannot heal something unless we're able to observe it. So one of the things that we're effectively seeing right now, and this is going to come through very heavily right now in the energy of separation. We just brought up the fact that we were recognizing and identifying to a certain degree situations and circumstances that feel like they have reached that moment of potential closure. But that closing out of a cycle, if you will, it's difficult, it's heavy. As I mentioned, doing the easy thing and doing the right thing can sometimes feel like very different things to a certain extent. And one of the things that we're effectively recognizing right now that feels so difficult is that observation point right now. And I brought this up. I literally closed the reading yesterday on this fact, recognizing that even in some of these pathways of separation, there is some kind of like amplification of opportunity that's effectively there to be able to build back into them. But I said that expression of looking at something and saying, not like that, under no circumstances, like that's not something that is effectively ideally aspired or desired, if you will. That is the struggle point for a lot of the energy and separation right now. If it's heavy, you're doing that work. Because we see here, what did we see that was amplifying right now? Some of that masculine energy needing to like basically move some energy away from them potentially, bearing in mind that this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to, of someone that's trying to amplify their own ability or desire to change into anything someone wants them to be in order to facilitate a union experience. What is the masculine that's healing doing there? It's feeling that weight of care and love for someone and saying no, but also feeling that sense of saying I could say yes to that, but recognizing the full import of what the shape of that type of partnership would be. It's heavy, but having that ability to hold forth and recognize something, to see it in that way, is allowing energetically to a certain extent that point in observation in identifying what feels like it is in alignment to you versus what you feel isn't. For feminine energy and separation as well, that moment or modality that's potentially rising up right now for a lot of the feminine energy right now in separation, I told you, if this isn't coming into a space or place of restoration, this is that observation point potentially around circumstances and situations wherein, again, someone is coming towards you, potentially masculine energy that is amplifying. This isn't from a lack of desire. This isn't from a lack of emotionality. This is more that question about whether someone seems like they are on the same vibration of healing. That difficulty of someone saying, again, I want you, I need you, versus saying, I'm ready to give, I'm ready to put forth. So even now for the feminine, that ability to recognize that there's a pathway back to something, but it doesn't necessarily feel like it's in alignment because the shape of something doesn't feel so much like it would amplify healing, so much as it would facilitate the unhealthy aspects of something. This ability to navigate this, it's heavy. This is where we start to see that a lot of this becomes a moment that for a lot of the energy and separation, this is that moment of effectively saying, I am now in a state of healing from that. The difference between having a moment of saying like, I am trying to heal someone else, I'm trying to work on a healing journey with someone else versus saying, I need to come into a space of recovering, because that's that moment that is amplifying the love of something, but also needing to move away from something, right? That's when I told you that energetic twist, like that moment comes that almost brings the energy back towards you, if you will, because that's that moment that you say, I need to bring that energy back to myself. I need to heal from that connection, as opposed to feeling the weight of potentially going back to something that you don't necessarily feel is in alignment with you right now. Masculine and feminine energy that are coming into healing in these modalities, this is observing what potentially needs to be healed to be able to facilitate healing going forward. And it is coming through with a lot of mutual accountability. So that's why we see that heaviness here, because this isn't that energetic expression of blame. This is an energy that's pushing that blame towards each other right now. Those restoration points are taking the accountability on what one can do differently by acknowledging what you would have changed in the past. So that's why we see this is heavy. This is heavy lifting right now. This is a lot of careful karmic path work. But again, experiencing and acknowledging something that you want to change is what allows for that point of facilitating and changing it going forward. And there is that modality of grief there to a certain extent, either because you're recognizing what you would do differently in the present if this is coming into those facilities of healing, if you will, versus those spaces and places wherein you're acknowledging and you're not seeing the ability for something to heal, in which case you are almost bringing that sense of healing back towards the self. Masculine and feminine energy that is effectively in that modality right now of like working through situations and circumstances wherein you are coming into divine union. What did I warn you was potentially happening right now in some of these expressions or some of these modalities, if you were? We were seeing and recognizing to a certain degree that there's something really important here that's effectively happening in relationality to circumstances and situations wherein we are effectively seeing that there is this point of acknowledging that I told you, don't let yourself go into that realm of assumption. Seeing and recognizing two energies or two individuals that have the same aspiration, that have the same determination point, that are moving towards the same horizon point. What is potentially happening right now is effectively that ability to fall out of partnership at a time that you should be like almost approaching it, because you're seeing something in the other energy and the way that they're expressing themselves. What is it doing? It's bringing up those doubts. It's bringing up those uncertainties. It's bringing up those little gremlin thoughts of like what you might think is happening, which is why I was articulating and saying it was so important to be able to lead forth right now from a space or place of seeking clarity, asking the question, getting the answer, recognizing right now the divine union frequency is a space or place where anything asked will immediately be returned in relationality to expression of care, of empathy, of concern. This is that moment that is, again, even now we see that navigating that, it may feel like heavy work, because why are we seeing this right now? Even for the energy that's expressing it, this could be doing a lot of that trauma impacting. Having that moment of saying, okay, yeah, I saw that you were pulling back. I was worried that that meant this. And someone being like, no, that didn't mean this. It meant that. Like having that parsing out, if you will, it's almost that moment. What are we doing here? We are expressing our anxieties and our doubts and our fears, not from an accusatory space, utilizing the practice of saying, I am feeling this way. I was feeling uncertain. I saw you moving in that way and it made me uncertain. Being able to express from that, actively amplifying and allowing right now a lot of that energetic work in terms of, again, building connections in a moment of expressing and articulating the doubts and the fears and the anxieties. What we recognize and understand is even in the frequency of the divine union, coming into the frequency of divine union doesn't mean that you don't have those uncertainties come up. Do you hold on to them? No, you release them. It's like a pressure valve. It's having that moment and recognizing that when you bring something forth, even if it's even if it's like that uncertainty, this is where we see that it almost gets purged. It's like that energetic purging, if you will. But that's the difference right now, and I keep seeing this between, again, what we are experiencing, which is the difference between, again, articulating how you feel versus having a moment of subjecting someone to how you feel. Very different modalities. And I did tell you, there may have been some energy that fell into separation yesterday and potentially even today, because instead of allowing oneself to articulate and get that sense of support by expressing the fear or anxiety, letting yourself kind of run wild in it, if you will, is potentially leading to some energetic separation at this time. Masculine and feminine in the divine union frequency, navigating this, creating this supportive system right now for one another is really important. Why are we seeing this right now? Because again, what did we see was happening in the divine union frequency? That point of accommodation, that point of understanding, that point of recognition in terms of where you find yourself at this time. This moment of recognizing that you yourself have changed, have altered by being in the frequency of divine union. It is requiring, I keep seeing this, spiritual or energetic spring cleaning. What may have felt comfortable or what you may have effectively resolved for in the beginning of coming into the divine union right now, you're recognizing needs some adaptability. I told you, it's that like scratchy sweater type of energy right now. Recognizing and identifying and seeing those spaces or places that you feel like you can come into a point of accommodation with. This is almost amplifying right now in relationality to being able to feel like this is that moment of building that deepening connection with another energy. So what is that effectively doing right now? This is that moment that is building that again. And this is like I told you, this is a little bit of that heavy path work that's happening right now in the frequency of divine union. Why are we seeing that again? Because I told you, even in the divine union frequency right now, feminine wants to move slower. Feminine wants to hold back. Feminine doesn't want to rush ahead too quickly. Feminine doesn't want to make too many immediate changes because feminine energy is effectively in that moment where when they hold something precious, they want to move more conservatively. Masculine wants to lead forth right now. I even told you this could be creating a little bit of friction for the energy in the divine union frequency right now. But one of the things that we also saw that was coming through in the divine union frequency yesterday to like add a whole different layer to this was that there may have been some difficult conversations that were happening yesterday in relationality. And I told you guys not to come into an accusatory space over this, to make sure that these were productive conversations in being able to express. And the best way I could put this to a certain way is an energetic blind spot that you may now recognize and see in relationality to the connection that you are in divine union with, right? That is what we saw that was almost requiring, I told you, some of those eggshell conversations yesterday potentially coming to the surface, because being able to navigate a situation in place right now, and I told you the articulation point in the difference between this feeling like saying to someone, I want you to change because it benefits me, has to do with the energy in the divine union acting as a clear mirror for the other. So how is the energy in the divine union acting as a clear mirror for another? We're seeing that the energy in the divine union is utilizing someone else's desire, someone else's perception of themselves to help that energy see themselves and to move into that state or space of being their best self. So we see that in those spaces and places right now where these conversations are happening, the ability to say to someone, I notice a blind spot here. I see something about you that you might want to pay attention to, because this could help you if you work through this, reaching that better sense of what I know you aspire and desire to be. Those are heavy conversations, even in the context of coming from a place of love and empathy. So we see even now, this could be a lot of that observation or weight of some of that energetic conversation coming to bear, because this is, again, that moment of recognizing what you can change versus what feels like you're trying to navigate, or even feeling like that moment of seeing or experiencing something about yourself that you may not necessarily have seen, but someone else is giving you a clearer optics on. Continuing to get, it's heavy work. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now. Second card in our 5-card spread for today is our Knight of Pentacles, masculine and feminine energy. One of the things that we're seeing, I just keep seeing this coming through right now. Masculine, you're in this modality, bearing in mind, this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. You're having to slow things down right now, potentially even for the feminine energy. For the masculine energy in the divine union, this ability to effectively create a point of consistency right now, it's difficult. It's difficult because we see that so much of this masculine energy just kind of wants to like run off like a kid at the races right now, because the more that you're in the divine union frequency, the more confidence that you're having in relationality to what you're trying to manifest. So masculine is seeing that moment, or again, wanting to rush forward, feminine wanting to pull back, is creating this space of masculine feeling this like, because like this is that modality of a masculine that's trying to come into that space or place of consistency in relationality to having the feminine basically sign on in relationality to the path work as it relates to some of these changes that we're potentially seeing that are being discussed in the divine union frequency. So even now, this is that moment that we see that like masculine energy having this ability, trying to create that strength, trying to have that gravitas in relationality to not kind of just like doing what you desire. Even now in the divine, I told you, being in the divine union frequency isn't always, gumdrops and roses. It's hard. It can be difficult. And having to come into that space of, again, mutual alignment right now is feeling very difficult, potentially even somewhat repressive for some of the masculine energy right now. But again, it is that heart opening exercise that it's leading to a better space and place of grounding. Feminine, one of the things that we're potentially seeing right now is you're also having to like push out of your own comfort zone to a certain extent to be able to match the pace of masculine. There may have even been these conversations over the yesterday that we saw that a lot of the energy may have been articulating in relationality to laying forth the plans going forward. What did that look like right now? For feminine energy, for masculine energy, this could be a moment that we saw that some of the masculine energy may have even been saying to the feminine, you're only, again, acting as a clear mirror. I've seen you be in situations and circumstances wherein you doubt your own self. You doubt your own desires. This is almost, again, the masculine energy. What is the masculine energy trying to give the feminine at this time by showing them this effect, like energetic blind spot? This is the masculine energy almost saying to feminine, like, I want you to take that risk. I want you to push forward. I want you to like amplify and meet me in that energetic frequency. But again, a masculine energy saying, I'm not saying this because I want it. I'm saying it because I feel like it would be best for you. Feminine saying to masculine right now, I've seen that you have a tendency of wanting to rush ahead, potentially sometimes allowing that inner child to like want to rush forward in a modality that sometimes leads you away from your own manifestation goals. So what's a feminine saying to the masculine that may be hard to hear, which is, again, maybe slow down, maybe be a little bit, make sure that you're consistent, make sure that you're really like focusing on like the directionality and you're not letting like that inner child take the wheel that's like kind of like letting you kind of like move a little bit more, with a less consistent manner. Both of these, masculine and feminine, coming into divine union right now. This is why I told you. And this is going to be harder for the masculine right now. I keep seeing this. Masculine energy, seeing a feminine energy slowing down right now at a time that you're moving into divine union with them does not necessarily indicate cold feet. It's just a problem with the masculine energy. When they see the feminine energy slow down in this way, they always assume that that's because that's a feminine moving with the same expression of masculine. Feminine energy does not slow down because of anxiety. Feminine energy slows down because of the preciousness that they potentially hold towards something. That is why I'm telling you right now, if you are coming into divine union and you're feeling or seeing the feminine or the masculine energy not moving in the same way as you, as you're moving towards an end goal, recognize that that doesn't mean that you both don't desire the same things. You have different energetic expressions that occur when you start to hold something precious. For masculine, recognizing this right now is what is requiring to a certain extent. Masculine leading forth. And I can see why some of this masculine energy, this is feeling like that trust fall, if you will, because this is the masculine energy that almost feels like, again, being able to express to a feminine in this way, to be able to articulate to a feminine and say, I have anxieties, I have fears, I have worries. I see sometimes I worry, like, again, showing feminine those fears. That's a space that you can heal. That's not something that you just have to hold to yourself and be stoic about. We're almost seeing here that this is the masculine energy coming into divine union that, again, is learning the difference between subjecting someone to how you're feeling. That would feel more like the accusational space versus leading forth from a space or place of inquiry and articulation. I saw you moving this way. It made me fear. I saw you doing this. It made me fear. Having that moment of being able to express the fear instead of activate upon it is what facilitates the healing gesture. So we see even now that for a lot of the masculine energy, this is hard work, because this is masculine energy that has to like take that boogeyman and say, and show it to the feminine, be like, this is what I was worried about. And even now we see, though, that again, what happens in the energy of the divine union? Show me what you're afraid of so we can heal it. take out that fear so we can clear it. Having that modality of being able to articulate instead of act upon the fear is what effectively amplifies the energy coming into the divine union right now. It's heavy work. Because the more that you move into the divine union, the more precious things become, the more the fears might amplify, right? So we see here that the energy that's coming into the divine union, they're not activating on the fear. They're leading forth with it. They're utilizing it to build even more connection, because that's that moment of saying, you are precious to me. And because you are precious to me, I have anxieties that things will come between us. Recognizing that, being able to show those is what is happening right now, both for the feminine being able to express this to masculine immediately being able to put a balm on it, masculine being able to present it to feminine, and feminine feeling the full weight and value, because when feminine sees a masculine that speaks to them on this is feminine recognizing immediately and seeing this is a masculine energy that cares about me so much that they're moving in a space of having anxiety. That is the feminine that isn't going to push the masculine away at that time. That's the feminine that's going to bring the masculine closer and say, I appreciate that you care so much that those are your fears, because it's the expression of the fear that is the expression of the empathetic, energetic connection. Masculine and feminine that are in separation, this is that sense of accountability in relationality to what you feel that you need to change versus what you feel you need to heal from. Some of the masculine and feminine energy right now, this is a deep healing gesture that's coming through. And unfortunately for some of the energy right now, there's that observation point in terms of what feels like the difference between something that you can facilitate healing with another person versus that sad, like that observation, that sad but true energy of saying we are in very different places. We want very different things. And even now we see that one of the difficulties around this is almost like releasing something to a certain extent. At the same time, recognizing that there is some pathway that you could still facilitate a partnership dynamic, but almost saying to oneself, not under those conditions. For feminine, that would almost be creating an intentionally codependent relationship with a masculine energy, which is why feminine energy is going, I see that I could do that. I'm not going to do it. Because that's not in the best interest of the masculine, even if it's what I potentially like, even if that means I have to move away from that. For the masculine, seeing a feminine that may be in a modality being like, I can change, I'll do whatever I need to do, I'll do anything, I'll become whoever you want me to become to be able to be with you. This is masculine, also seeing that dark path, if you will, of what that would look like, what that could be. Once you see it from that perspective, you can't necessarily accept it because that's the only way you see it. So that's almost that moment that, again, for both masculine and feminine energy, the observation that pathwork is there, but having to say, I would do anything for love, but I won't do that, is that moment of someone energetically saying, this is my expression of love for you. I would not have us go down that dark path. So we see that even now for a lot of that energy and separation, this is that moment the healing immediately hits you. This is that moment that feels like that moment of personal healing, because that is that moment that you're recognizing that choice that you're making is the difference between doing what feels easy, what you desire, versus making what you effectively and energetically feel is the right choice. So we see even now for a lot of the energy in the separation modality, this is either allowing, this isn't the closing out of a cycle. This is encouraging that energetic healing breakthrough in terms of saying to someone else, I hope one day on this path we can find each other again, and you understand that what I'm doing right now is not an act of meanness. It is an act of love. It is an act of profound empathy. So for the feminine, this is the masculine saying to the masculine, you can't just come towards me from a need-based mentality. You can't come towards me and say, I need you, I want you. That's not the establishment of a healthy partnership. It has to be the masculine that's ready to say, I'm willing to give to you. I want to build with you. I want to grow with you. That is that modality of feminine saying, I hope one day they understand if they are having in this moment of release. While for masculine, if this is a feminine that is literally trying to get off their own path, change themselves profoundly to get on the path of the masculine, this is masculine going, that's not right for you. You want something very different than what I want right now. I can love you from afar. I can hold space for you in my heart from a distance because we are in very, very separate places. So even now we see that energetic act is feeling like that act of love, even though someone else might not necessarily see it as such. Masculine and feminine that are having breakthroughs right now in separation over this, this is the energy coming back and saying, I understand. I understand that what you did was coming from a place of love. It was not coming from a place of that recognition and saying, I understand now, which is either, again, a masculine saying, I have healed in the time of our separation. I have learned, I've gotten on that pathwork of healing. Even now, this is feminine energy that needs that consistency to see if this is putting the words to the action. For masculine, this is that modality that is potentially being amplified in a feminine saying, please understand that if I push you away at a point that you were being honest with me, it wasn't because it wasn't in alignment to me. It's because you created a situation where you might not necessarily have brought that forth immediately. And that was that element of surprise, that boo that I told you about that may have created that sense of shock that may have pulled some energy into separation. Continuing, masculine also taking that wait and see approach around that. Third card in our 5-card spread, 2 cards, all the cards today coming through. This is that moment because, again, we keep seeing the fact that there is something here about energetic return that's coming through right now. But what's beautiful about this, I need to stress this, just because it's hard doesn't mean it's healing. Sometimes things need to hurt to heal. Sometimes that acknowledgement point of recognizing that there's something here that's painful, but it still doesn't mean it's not in the process of healing. That is that affirmation point that we're seeing that's potentially occurring right now around some circumstances and situations. And it is that moment that is either allowing for that breakthrough in pathwork, returning back to something and saying, da-da-da-dun, like the opening of a pathway here, because some energetic lesson has been learned in the interim that would allow for that path to be in alignment, or it is the moment of recognizing that the path is still blocked, that unavoidableness is still there. And that observation to a certain extent is reaffirming someone else's commitment to a certain extent to continue forward on their path with, again, the firm hope and recognition that this is going to effectively allow for some level or degree of healing as they proceed forward down this path. It's heavy energy. But for all of this, that sense of catharsis, that doing what is feeling energetically like the right thing, as it were, is effectively what we are seeing when we feel that element of catharsis, that pain, but also that moment of deep, profound healing, because sometimes things need to hurt to heal. Masculine and feminine coming into the divine union frequency right now. This is why I was telling you, make sure that you're expressing your doubts and your fears towards each other right now. If you're seeing someone moving in a way that doesn't make any sense to you, as opposed to running off of base assumptions, doing actions, feeling, oh, well, they must be doing that because I see them doing this and they're not telling me this. Like, don't let yourself go into those little like energetic gremlins in your head that are telling you or putting these like thoughts in your head. Lead forth with them. Articulate upon them, say them, express them, because recognizing that the energy of the divine union will not be in an amplification point of not wanting to immediately heal a doubt or a fear or an uncertainty. The difference here is making sure that you're not moving in a space or place of accusation so much as you're starting with that I statement, saying, I am feeling I need some clarity. I need some reassurance. I'm seeing something that doesn't make sense. Articulating, again, the personal experience that you are having as opposed to implementing or thrusting your assumption on another. So we see even now that for some of this energy, I'm telling you right now, there's some energy right now that's potentially falling back into separation over silly circumstances like this. Two energies that want the same thing but are having different expressions as they move towards the same endpoint that is potentially leading to separation modalities right now. Don't let that happen. Masculine and feminine energy that is in the divine union frequency, this is that uncozy sweater mentality that we're effectively seeing right now. You can see how important, how vital this energy is right now to help facilitate huge, tremendous, energetic breakthroughs right now for energy that is in separation or coming into divine union. It's a little bit harder to place if you're in the divine union frequency presently, because that is almost that feeling of like all of those uncertainties rising up in the moment, particularly at the same time that someone is energetically expressing to you, because we saw this yesterday, something that they've seen or recognized within you that they're trying to bring to the forefront to show you, not for the sake of their own self, but because they're trying to amplify and say, I recognize that this is the directionality that you try to go into. I want you to see this aspect or part of yourself so that you can try to facilitate healing on it. That ability to recognize this right now, it's heavy energy. It may even lead to some spaces or places of conflict, having to reassess and readdress the past, because we're seeing that a lot of the energy in the divine union is recognizing the profound shifts that's potentially occurred within the self just from being in the divine union frequency. It's requiring some energetic unpacking, returning to the past to reassess and see if you still feel the same way as you did when you first initially came into the divine union. That doesn't mean that that's effectively divine union energy breaking apart. It means in a way that this is divine union energy that is recognizing and being mindful of their own process of continual growth and transformation. Fourth card in our 5-card spread for today is, we've got here, get to work. Like, this is that 8 of Pentacles, and we like to see this because this is the practical application to help put a bomb on someone's doubts and fears and anxieties. What do we see is happening right now in the frequency of the divine union? You guys already know how to do this if you're in the divine union. You do it all the time. Express a doubt and fear so that someone can give you a functional, tangible thing that can be done to help alleviate it. What do you show? There's nothing you can't express in the divine union frequency so long as it's not an accusational space, one's own articulation of what you are feeling to immediately try to implement or enact some kind of practical change. These energies right now are helping each other through those modalities. What are they doing right now? If you're having these moments of doubt and fear in the divine union frequency, is someone going, that sounds like a you problem? No, they're looking at each other and saying, this is what you can probably do. This is what we can probably do. This is how we can amend it. This is what we can do to fix this. We can put a patch on this. We can slap some paint here. This is that moment. I told you, energetic spring cleaning, if you will, by observing where you are in your divine union frequency to identify and articulate if there's something that you feel like you need to change or adjust or modify due to the fact that being in the frequency itself has created a whole new set of problems that you didn't even expect yourself to have at the time that you entered the divine union frequency, because you've changed while being in the heart of it. It's like best worst case scenario kind of thing. Masculine and feminine energy that is coming into the divine union frequency. This is why I'm telling you right now, I swear, if any of you are letting yourself go running rampant with all these little doubts and fears in your head, you're going to fall back into separation. All right. And then you can tell them to go see my video and they can find out exactly why. Okay. Making sure what happens in the frequency of divine union. Bring forth the anxiety, bring forth the uncertainty. Don't accuse someone of it. Articulate how you are feeling. Get that bomb, get that patch put on it. Again, what is the energy doing right now that's having that work? They're tripping over themselves coming into divine union to reaffirm the commitment in terms of energetically seeing something and someone being like, oh, you're misinterpreting me. This is the trust fall energy. You don't know each other yet. You're not recognizing and seeing that the way that what someone moves in a moment that you're moving towards the same thing may just be a different way of getting there that you're not necessarily recognizing. So the energy in the divine union frequency is unpacking this. They're opening it up to each other and they're immediately reaffirming and reassuring each other, potentially even putting practical aspects in to help if those are continuing. This is more of that work of saying like, this will be fixed when we do this. This is the amplification of why we need to adjust that, right? Handyman kind of energy, all right? If there's a problem, fix the problem. If there's an anxiety, fix the anxiety. Masculine and feminine in separation right now. This is that modality that is the acceptance point on whether something can be fixed or whether something doesn't understand that there's something to be fixed. And what's so difficult about this right now, especially for some of the energy that I'm telling you is bringing in some of this like very difficult, tough love type of healing. This is energy, and this is why. For the feminine energy, this is potentially having separated from an energy that didn't feel like there was a problem in the first place. was potentially even articulating same to feminine, what's your problem? If this was a feminine that was trying to say, I feel like I'm doing all of the energetic heavy lifting here and I'm not getting that support, and this is now feminine that stepped back from that, and now this is the expression of masculine coming back and saying, I need you, I want you, why aren't you coming back here? This is feminine energy that's almost feeling or dealing with an energy that they're recognizing hasn't necessarily changed because they never thought something was wrong. And that's why we see now that this is the feminine energy that's almost like recognizing that that would be walking back into something that feels like, someone, it's like someone who's like almost looking towards you and saying, I don't understand what your problem is. And feminine being like, exactly, right? For masculine energy, this is effectively the same modality right now. If you're seeing a feminine that's too willing to change everything about themselves, that's too willing to like contort or bend or change or twist or adjust their own life path to be able to come into alignment with you beyond what you feel their own comfort level is, this is that moment with masculine saying, the energy is probably saying to masculine, I don't understand why, like there's no problem here. I'm coming, like I'm here to accept you. And masculine being like, no, because this is a difference of you saying, I truly accept, like I'm in that space and place that I want what you want, versus a masculine looking at a feminine that's going, I can do it. I can make these changes. The minute they're the word make these changes, that's like masculine hearing feminine saying, I can just make these changes in myself. I can just pull my heart out and just do all of these things and everything will be fine. This masculine being like, no, not like that. Well, for a lot of this energy right now, the energy that is having the breakthroughs in this modality right now, this is the masculine energy that's potentially coming forth the feminine being like, I understand. No, I truly understand. I need to give forth. I need to show you what I'm willing to give. Our relationship can't just be based on need. It has to be the expression of giving forth instead of just my desire or my want for you amplifying the connection between us. There needs to be more of this and less of that. That's this masculine that feminine seeing. And even now, holding out judgment to see if masculine can take that word and bring it into action. While for masculine right now, if this is feminine that's coming into that healing vibration, this is feminine energy saying, again, I'm okay with this. This is something that I'm okay with. You just surprised me. You brought something forth that I was not expecting. So having that moment, again, masculine also taking that wait and see approach to see if that is feminine that can put their actions to their words. Fifth card in our 5-card spread for today. We have here, look at this. Look at this transition, my friends. I know you were all freaking out when you saw these cards popping out to begin with, but look what we're ending with the 5th card today before we drill down to these. We've got here our Tower in its reversal. This is how we heal it. We don't pretend, we don't ignore the scary thing in the room. We don't we don't do that. We recognize it, we address it to be able to facilitate the healing. So we see even now that a lot of that work, the intensity of a lot of this work right now is effectively going to feel a little bit like, again, confronting like the elephant in the room, if you will. But again, how else are you going to be able to navigate something if you don't confront the elephant in the room? You got to do it. You got to do it. Why wouldn't you do it? So we see even now energetically, one of the things that's why this is a lot of that heavy unpacking, if you will, that's potentially happening right now around some situations and circumstances. In the divine union frequency, this ability to have those hard conversations, to unpack things, being able to articulate, express doubts, fears, anxieties in order to facilitate healing on them, it's difficult. It's difficult, but it's productive. They're not heavy, they're my brother. They're not heavy, they're my brother, right? That's what we get to, right? Isn't that hard? Nothing's hard. What do you mean? That's that moment of recognizing and saying it's hard work, but we can do hard work for each other because that's the expression of the energy in the divine union frequency. It's helping each other through those difficulties, helping each other shoulder that weight, recognizing that when you enter the divine union frequency, it's not like everything becomes sunshine and rainbows. It's just the fact that you've got someone there to help you bear that load to a certain extent, to help you find that way to facilitate a path forward that's going to feel like it's in its most productive, positive space and place. Masculine and feminine right now, coming into divine union, the energy that's coming into divine union right now. And I'm telling you, some of you fell into separation over this. Instead of letting those doubts, those fears, those anxieties run you all over the place, run you rampant, run you into separation at a time they're about to come into divine union. If you are instead doing that hard work of energetically expressing it, what is the energy that's coming into divine union doing? Rushing to alleviate the doubts, the fears, the anxieties. But again, these are not being stated from someone saying, you're doing this, you're doing that. That's not how we heal something. I'm feeling concerned. I notice something that I can't stop seeing. I need reassurance here. Articulating the I statement as opposed to saying you. Building forth in that way is what is allowing right now that healing to come forth to a certain degree. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between Devil card in combination with our Nine of Swords, in combination with our Knight of Pentacles. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with, we have here, look, Page of Pentacles. Look at all this pentacle energy. This is like help is on the way. This is like help is on the way type of energy. We love to see this here. Masculine and feminine energy. Doing that heavy lifting right now in the divine union frequency, articulating, expressing, letting this be that moment that feels a little bit like this karmic clearing, if you will. It may even be, like I told you, having some point of recognition in terms of how much you've changed or how much things have changed from the time that you may have initially entered the divine union frequency to where you may find yourself now. That's okay. The energy has room to accommodate this to a certain extent. Because what are we seeing right now energetically for the spaces and places with someone articulating these doubts, these fears, these uncertainties? Grab a bucket, grab some paint. What do we need to do? Having that energy coming in, if you will, to be able to lend that tangible, practical support around situations and circumstances. We even see here, and I told you, there may have been some hard conversations yesterday for some of the energy in divine union. Having that express, I keep seeing that like a little bit of tough love energy, trying to show someone something about themselves. Again, not from a selfish purpose, but almost to say to someone in a way, I understand the standard that you're effectively trying to achieve for yourself. This is something I notice that you could modify or adjust that may help you come into a better alignment with that sense of self. We even see here, that's a little bit difficult. That stings. I told you there was a little bit of that cringe energy that came in yesterday, experiencing or feeling something like that. This is that moment of, again, allowing reassurance and saying, listen, that isn't something that is being stated or said that's supposed to hurt. That's to help facilitate something more productive going forward. So making sure that you don't come into that space or place. I told you, if you're having a productive conversation, don't let yourself fall into that victim mentality, as opposed to recognizing the difference between someone accusing you of something versus someone telling you something to help you facilitate that version of self that you aspire to be. It's a fine line, but it's important. Masculine and feminine coming into the divine union frequency. What is happening? I told you some energy fell into separation over this. I'm really mad at you if you did. Because if you fell into separation because you saw an energy moving in the same direction of you but having a different way of getting there, feminine slowing down as masculine wants to speed up, and if you allowed yourself to like rush off with your worst fears and anxieties, you fell into separation over it. What is the energy doing right now that is in better alignment? The energy that is coming into the divine union is not holding back on those anxieties and doubts and fears. They are clearing it with each other by expressing the I am statement, saying, I am feeling this. Can you give me reassurance? I noticed this. Could you give me reassurance? Not coming into that accusatory space, but coming into that space of recognizing that in the energy of healing, being able to express a concern will immediately have a balm of healing put on it. It won't create friction. It won't create separation, asking a question or articulating on a feeling. So we see here that for a lot of the energy in the divine union, even as you're having these heavy conversations, it's immediately giving you that energetic reassurance at the same exact moment. Masculine and feminine in separation right now. This is why this is so energetically heavy right now for some of the energy in separation. Because this is either that moment that is creating that profound sense of relief, And what's happening for the energy coming into restoration? Mutual accountability of what you can tangibly change that is going to, again, allow for a path work that feels like it is fixed, aligning, as opposed to returning to past cycles. This, if this is coming into healing, it's not just one person or another person making changes. Mutual energy saying, I hold myself responsible for what happened in the past. This is what I'm trying to affirm and commit to going forward, to allow for these points of adaptability and modification. Bearing that energetic load, like bearing that energetic weight, if you will, of accountability, grief of the past, to be able to mutually facilitate productive, positive paths going forward. Is that coming into a space or place of blame and accusation? No. It's two energies apologizing, two energies saying, I see it now, two energies saying, I know what I need to change. As soon as masculine provides this to feminine, feminine provides it to masculine. This is the energetic pathwork that starts with the masculine taking the accountability and responsibility and offering a new solution going forward. That's building the feminine energy's own sense of confidence and saying, I can make changes too. That's feminine acting as a clear mirror to masculine, meeting them on that positive pathwork. While for the other part of the feminine energy, if this is feminine energy that had a moment of separation, and instead of masculine coming back with a point of accountability, if masculine just came back to feminine in a larger expression of what led to the separation event in the first place, you know, more of that I need you, I want you, I miss you mentality, instead of saying I recognize what I need to give forth. I understand what I wasn't giving you that may have created this instability. This is feminine energy. I told you, taking that healing, immediately putting on the self. Feminine going, it's not my place to heal someone that doesn't want to heal or doesn't even recognize that there's something to be healed. What's feminine energy doing? The healing's still there. It goes right into the self, because now feminine's saying, I need to recover from that. I need to recover from that. And holding some accountability in terms of finding themselves in that position is, again, a feminine energy that is moving away from something, both with a sense of personal accountability that is helping to lay new foundational pathwork going forward. And what is feminine energy experiencing in the process? Energy that's on the same path. Energy that may be even saying to them right now, same. Energy that may be in the same exact modality. Because what are we seeing right now for masculine? There's masculine energy right now on the healing path that is going through the same exact situation or circumstance. That is either masculine that's coming into a healing event by a feminine saying, I am in alignment with you. I am in alignment with you. You surprised me. You startled me with something. That's what the rejection was. It wasn't me not being in alignment with you. Versus, which is allowing for pathwork of restoration, mutual accountability, masculine apologizing, saying, I should have brought that forth. I should have brought that true version of self towards you sooner. And feminine saying, well, yeah, you should. But also saying, I also recognize I shouldn't have reacted the way that that I did, right? That's where we see here that accountability coming through. While as for masculine, that's in that modality right now of seeing that possible potential pathwork with a feminine, and recognizing that moment of recognizing that feminine would do anything to potentially be with you, it feels like a deep pull. This is why I told you this is immediately healing that's coming to you, because this is that moment of looking to feminine and saying, I love you, but not like that. I love you, but that is a bridge too far. And we need to acknowledge and understand that if it's a bridge too far, that's because we're on different bridges. So for the masculine energy that's recognizing that is immediately a profound healing moment, because you're doing the hard thing instead of the thing that feels like it was like aligned to your desire center. That sense of integrity coming in immediately, coming through right now with this energetic moment that I have to say, to a certain extent, I can even see that this could be a masculine energy that's moving towards other masculine, that's articulating this to get that support and saying, I see what you're doing. And it's hard, right? That's almost the masculine energy trying to say, I hope someone else can explain and express and understand this, right? Because this is a masculine, almost again, feels like their act of pushing away kind of paints them in a space or place where they feel like, they're going to be seen in a way, but this is the masculine energy that, again, is almost coming into that point of acceptance and saying, I need to just recognize that that's effectively the case. Continuing to get clarification. And what is happening on the way? Masculine coming onto the path of integrity here as you go through this difficulty. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Knight of Pentacles in combination with our Four of Swords in its reversal, in combination with our Five of Cups. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our Knight of Swords, okay? This card keeps on coming up. What is the problem right now? With the I don't want to say problem. What is the personal challenge right now for a lot of the masculine energy? This is hitting that crux point, that deep energetic work between what you want to move towards right now and the way you know you need to move towards it, right? This is that stop start that we're seeing here, that like, this is, I told you, for the masculine energy right now in the divine union frequency, this is a lot of energetic effort in terms of learning, like, self-control, if you will. It's Lent. I keep getting the message. It's Lent. This moment or modality that we're effectively seeing right now for a lot of this masculine energy is feeling like, again, that moment of building a sense or an ability of having self-control, if you will, right now. Because for the masculine energy right now, this is that vibration, or this is that sensation of what did we see was happening? Wanting to rush forward, wanting to, like, the masculine wants to move right now, even in the divine union frequency, at a much more fast clip than the feminine. And masculine is trying to modulate right now between a point that feels like it is comfortable, because, again, this is masculine that is recognizing and trying to move with feminine in a way that feminine doesn't feel like they're being forced out of their comfort zone, while also feminine, you are also doing that work right now in terms of, again, challenging your own self, pushing your own self forward a little bit faster than you would typically do for the sake of the masculine energy that you see is trying to come into that point of accommodation to match your own energetic frequency. And a lot of this has to do right now with some point of reassessment. Yesterday, I told you this is why these energies are moving in different modalities right now. What did we see was happening? What is the transformation that we saw with the feminine energy that's happening right now in the divine union frequency? Becoming more vulnerable and becoming more articulate around their vulnerability. This is feminine energy that's coming into a point of power while also being very vulnerable, feeling confident to be their most authentic expression of self. What's happening to the masculine right now in the same, what is the transformation that's been happening to the masculine energy right now in the divine union frequency? Bearing in mind that this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. Masculine, it's not making you feel more vulnerable. It's making you feel more secure in your decision to be in the divine union frequency. This is masculine being like, this is great. And this is masculine that's like wanting to, like, ramp up, because this is that moment that your confidence just like is like, all systems go. You just want to kind of like blast off, if you will, because that point of security that's happening in the divine union frequency is amplifying your own desire in relationality to what you're hoping to achieve within it. That is that moment. You see here, the feminine energy pulling back, masculine wanting to rush forward, having to readdress how you've energetically changed since coming into the divine union frequency is creating a little bit of heavy energetic unpacking, because something about the way you're changing in the heart of the divine union frequency is different. It's different. It's energetically different, right? Masculine and feminine coming into the divine union frequency. This is why I'm telling you right now, just because you see someone energetically moving in a different way that confuses you doesn't mean they're not in the same direction. Talk it out, express it. Because even now we see that the energy of masculine right now, this is potentially going to be feminine saying, I saw you like moving around sporadically and I couldn't understand it. What's the balm that's coming to the masculine with the feminine saying that? Masculine saying, let me and what's feminine saying? Feminine saying, I've experienced places in the past where if like a masculine energy like moves sporadically without clarification, Like that was a separation event. What's the masculine energy in this modality doing right now? Immediately lending that point of clarity. Immediately saying, I'm recognizing, I want you to feel comfortable. I want you to understand how I'm moving. There's no fear that you can't bring forth that I can't immediately put a clarification point on. What is the feminine energy? If this is a fem masculine, seeing feminine, slowing down, moving more carefully. Is that a masculine assuming that the feminine? Don't assume the feminine is having cold feet. This is feminine energy holding something precious, trying to move more carefully with it. So what is the energy staying in divine union doing? Masculine, articulating on the fear, articulating on the anxiety, not from an accusatory space, saying, I noticed you were moving this way. It made me a little anxious. You're clarifying what you're doing, how you're moving, and potentially even unpacking why some of the trauma in the past may have had you feeling that anxiety in the first place. Continuing, masculine and feminine in separation right now. This is that observation point that we are recognizing and identifying that feels so difficult right now. And I got to say, for a lot of the masculine energy, this is a very hard journey of healing. I'm going to just say it, because for some of the masculine energy right now, this is feeling like this struggle between your head and your heart space. This is like a deep, 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 profound healing event for a lot of the masculine energy effectively navigating this right now. Because this isn't that moment that you're like, your heart space wants to bring you forward towards someone. There's even this moment of someone trying to move towards you in this same energetic frequency. But it is that sense or that observation point in seeing someone that you feel is getting off too far off of their own personal alignment, too willing to change, to shift, to adjust in a way that doesn't feel like it looks like it is a comfortable space for them, something that feels like it is hurting them to do so. This is that moment that when I told you, the masculine battling your own internal mechanisms in realizing and recognizing that a part of you wants to move towards that, but the other part saying, not under those circumstances, right? That's that heaviness that comes through saying they can't, not like that. Wouldn't, because you're recognizing and seeing and potentially even experiencing moments from the past wherein you may have seen or felt what that effectively results in. Because again, that's almost like someone who's like, intentionally, like this is you completely coming out of a recovery space for some of the masculinist modality, trying to lead forth from an open space. You're like looking at someone who's like, I'm willing to like put like this false sense of self up to be able to be with you. A masculine going, no, I can't do that. I just learned how not to do that myself. I cannot be in union with someone who's doing that for my benefit. So we see even now the masculine energy experiencing that. This is why this feels like, I told you, this healing is coming right back to you, and it's heavy. It's hard healing. While for the other part of the masculine energy, if this is a feminine that's articulating and saying to a certain extent, this isn't a bridge too far for me. You just surprised me. You didn't bring something forward when you should. This is the masculine saying, I recognize that. I take full accountability. That's fair. That's valid. Right? You can tell the shift. You can tell the shift between someone saying, I pushed you away because I was surprised, versus someone saying, I'll just change everything about me to be able to come back into union with you. It's like that act of discernment is so valuable and critical for a lot of the masculine energy and separation right now, but it's allowing for healing to be facilitated either back in union or going into separation, but feeling like you're moving into that path of like doing the right thing, even if it's not the easy thing. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Four of Swords, our Five of Cups in its reversal, and our Eight of Pentacles. May I please have one card to clarify? One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now. This is beautiful, because what we're effectively seeing right now is, and this is, look at this collective. This is that moment that like, this is that moment of, again, recognizing and saying, having that point of saying, like, observing what you're bringing forth, if you will. Thinking again, moving out of that modality of like what feels like it is best for one's personal self, but thinking more in that like mindedness of the energy that you're trying to create around yourself, right? This is that energy. I told you, this is karmic energetic spring cleaning, if you will. Making sure that you're like, you're like literally like washing the windows, like washing the windows, if you will, in relationality to like what you want to see around you at this time. So what are the things that we're effectively seeing right now? And this is why it's a little bit more energetically heavy for the energy in the divine union frequency, is a lot of this has to be, I keep getting that energetic spring cleaning. Recognizing what you effectively desired or aspired at the time of coming into the divine union, having this moment of personal recalibration to be able to make sure that you're still on the same page, and recognizing and identifying what that looks like going forward. So we see even now that point of assessment, even if it's like I told you, sometimes like when you have to, sometimes to clean a room, like sometimes to really do like a deep clean of a room, you have to like make a big mess, right? So we're almost seeing here energetically that for a lot of the energy in this modality right now, this ability to like feel like you're doing this like emotional unpacking, if you will, observing and recognizing how much you've changed while being in the heart of the divine union frequency, is effectively allowing a moment of grounding in the present and recognizing and making sure that you're still on the same, you still want the same things, you're still moving in the same direction. How can you facilitate something that can come through even easier, if you will? So one of the things that we're effectively seeing right now is this is that moment of productivity, because this is that moment that is immediately creating for the energy in the divine union frequency this sense of reassurance. A lot of this being a reassurance and recognizing what you want to continue to change going forward that's going to allow for that point of easement as you continue. Masculine and feminine coming into divine union, if this is a modality or moment that you didn't let your doubts and your fears and your anxieties send you winging off in the wrong direction, if instead you articulated them, you expressed them, you spoke about them, the energy that's coming into the divine union frequency is immediately putting a balm on those doubts, on those fears. And again, that valuation point, seeing a situation or circumstance where you're able to lead forth with your anxiety, with your uncertainty, with that I am statement, not coming into a state of accusation, but instead saying, I am feeling like this. I feel like I need a little reassurance here. Immediately getting that level or degree of reassurance and clarity is what is effectively affirming a lot of the energy. And again, that sensation and that reminder of, I like being with you, I love being with you because you make things so easy, because you're on the same path and you're doing this for each other. Continuing masculine and feminine in separation. This is that point of acceptance as to whether something feels like it can move into a modality of change occurring, or if this is a moment of release. And it is requiring the past to come back up right now to reassess and re-recognize if it feels like something there has effectively energetically changed. If someone is in that modality. Now, again, this is different for masculine and feminine. You're noticing this, aren't you? For the feminine, it's the amplification of whether a masculine can change. For masculine, it is seeing whether a feminine energy is willing to change too much. Right? So what are we seeing here for the feminine energy? That observation point in seeing a masculine being able to come into the pathwork of saying, I recognize my need for you isn't enough to maintain a connection. I need to give forth. I know what I can change here. Feminine energy, seeing that energy that feels like, again, instead of the pull, the push forward, is the feminine energy feeling like something already feels like that energetic shift is there, because they're almost experiencing it immediately from masculine that's taking accountability for the past experience where they may have been coming too much from that demanding space, and now they're recognizing a role of responsibility in wanting to build with the feminine. While for the masculine energy, for the other part of the feminine energy, this observation of someone potentially experiencing a situation or circumstance where someone's trying to come back to you, and it's like the amplification of what effectively led to the separation in the first place. Someone saying like having a lot of like a huge emotional outpouring, but again, subjecting emotions to you instead of expressing them. like subjecting their emotions on you instead of saying those I am statements to articulate how they're feeling, or coming into that space saying, I need you, I want you, instead of saying like, this is what I can give forth. This is the feminine energy saying, I hope one day they understand. I hope one day they understand that this step of walking away isn't due to a lack of love. It's coming from a tremendous desire of love and the hope and aspiration that we can move into something that feels like it is better. And this is almost something that the feminine energy is coming into that state of accepting, because this is that feminine energy that's moving forward and saying, I hope that day will come, but I can't assume and wait for it to. This is the feminine energy continuing to move forward with their life, as it were. Masculine energy, you are also doing that work right now, especially and particularly if there are circumstances and situations that led to separation events wherein we are seeing that this is masculine energy that may, again, feel like you led forward from a place of openness, honesty, and clarity. If this led to a rejection moment, and this is now feminine energy coming back towards you, that's either feminine energy coming back towards you at this time saying, I am totally on the same page with you. You just surprised me. You startled me. You brought something forth that you should have brought forth sooner. This is that accountability moment, because if you're doing that, it's not going to happen again. So there's something here that can be healed because you're taking accountability on like that being the situation or scenario. Whereas if this is a masculine that's seeing a feminine that's coming towards them and saying, I'll change, I'll just change everything I want. I can deal with this. I can deal with you. I can deal with this reality. I can deal with this truth. This is masculine going, that shouldn't be, that's not the modality we should be in. It shouldn't feel like your life should be one of constant accommodation to be able to be in alignment with me. We just need to observe that we're not in the same space or place. So immediately that deep healing coming through right now in relationality to just coming into a point of acceptance. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now. And again, moving forward. Masculine and continuing to get clarification right now between our Eight of Pentacles in combination with our Tower in its reversal. We love these two together. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our Page of Wands in its reversal. What did I tell you was occurring right now for the masculine and feminine energy in the divine union frequency? And this is why we saw that there may have even been a little bit of hairy energy yesterday in relationality to some of the difficult conversations coming up, because there may have been some observation points that were leading towards yesterday in divine union in terms of observing aspects or situations or things showing someone something that you may feel that they need to change within or around themselves, but not doing it from a place or space that feels like it is personally motivated, but trying to navigate that territory of saying, I'm bringing this to forward to you because I know that this is who and what you want to embody. I want to help you see this so that you can effectively make these adjustments and changes going forward. So we see that for a lot of the energy in this modality right now, that ability to observe, that ability to change is effectively, again, taking a lot of that. And that's why this feels a little energetically heavy for the energy in the divine union frequency right now. Because this is not letting yourself, a lot of the energy in the divine union frequency right now needs to work on not letting yourself move into some kind of victim mentality, but instead recognizing the difference between, and I have to say this, and I have to I need to stress this. It's not that there isn't spaces and places where one has been victimized, but the difference between an energetic frequency of someone saying something like negative or derogatory to you versus an energy that is effectively trying to give you constructive criticism, right? Those are different things. So we effectively see to a certain extent that navigating that space or place right now, that ability to look at something right now and be able to effectively articulate and say, like, showing something to someone and saying, I'm showing this to you because I feel like this is something that you may want to see in yourself that you may not necessarily see, is helping, trying to facilitate healing, right? That is the energetic space or place of saying something, and not saying it in a way that feels like I'm telling you this for your own good. Not like that. Saying like, I want to see this because I want you to rise to the challenge of being your best version of self, right? Masculine and feminine And again, at that expression, it feels a little energetically heavy, right? Because that's that moment of, again, trying to come into that, like facilitating that correction point today may feel like a little bit difficult in the realm of conversation. Don't let yourself get triggered. Masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union. This is why I told you to make sure that you are articulating and amplifying your doubts, your fears, and anxieties instead of acting upon them. Because being able to articulate on them, saying, I am feeling like this, I am feeling like that, being able to come into that expression as opposed to letting those doubts and fears run wild, if you will, is creating that modality right now that is, again, immediately healing, but it's also potentially triggering in the process, because the minute that you see that there's an expression of energy here where you can ask a question and immediately have that reassurance, what is it doing? It's healing the spaces and places where you may have not necessarily received that. That's immediately when the healing becomes the inner child healing, because that's that moment of recognizing that the question being asked wasn't the failure point. It's having to look at any spaces and places in the past that made you feel like asking that honest question wasn't going to receive or was going to have some kind of negative outcome, as opposed to just getting that reassurance or getting that energetic support. Right? This is that inner child healing immediately coming through, because then you have to look at yourself and go, where did I start feeling like that? Where did I start feeling that asking a question was going to like immediately result in some kind of reprisal, as opposed to having that energetic level of care and honesty and empathy brought forth, right? This is where that energetic healing, the minute the bomb is put there, that's like when the real healing begins. So there's a lot of deep healing that's potentially happening right now for the energy coming into the divine union. Masculine and feminine in separation right now. This is that modality that feels like it is immediately the energetic catharsis moment, because what we're effectively seeing right now energetically in separation, this observation point in what you feel like you can actually change. I told you, what is in your power to change versus what just needs to be accepted right now is what is effectively happening for the energy in separation. It's heavy work. Coming into a point of acceptance is very difficult, because those are those moments of saying, despite my best effort, despite my best energetic effort. But even now we see that that's immediately allowing for that point of catharsis, because that's the moment that the lesson becomes embodied in the self. You know, for feminine, having that point of observation, recognizing that there are some things that are beyond your control, that no matter how much you come into a point of modification, you might not necessarily ever be able to change that if someone's not willing to meet you in that same modality. That is the lesson that's being carried by a lot of the feminine going forward. And that's why we see that this is becoming that path of personal responsibility and accountability traveling forward from this point. While for masculine, coming into that same modality of finding one's own self and then seeing an energy that may want to change or contort themselves to be with you and having to energetically push them away, that's that moment that the healing comes towards you, because this is that moment that you are healing the inner child that says, well, I could be with them. I want to be with them. But that mature aspect of yourself goes, but not under those circumstances. Not there. That is a bridge too far. We are on different bridges. If it's a bridge too far, it's because we're on different bridges. And I'm not going to pull them off of that bridge, because that would be me effectively not coming into my own healing. So for the masculine energy, deep, profound healing right now if you're in this modality and experiencing this. While again, for the energy that's coming into some point of restoration on this is that sense of seeing someone that is ready and willing to take accountability to a certain extent. For feminine, that is the masculine saying, I was acting like a child in the past. I was letting you treat me like a child. I recognize now that you moved away from me because you didn't want to treat me like a child. While for feminine, masculine, if this is a healing moment, this is the feminine coming towards the masculine saying, I am in alignment with you. You surprised me. And this is the masculine taking accountability in that modality, because that's the masculine saying that is correct, right? That's where the healing is facilitated. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Page of Pentacles and our Knight of Swords. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with our Six of Cups in its reversal. Masculine and feminine energy. that are in divine union. This ability and recognition point right now in relationality to what you feel like you need to energetically fix, what you need to come into a point of accommodation for. A lot of this is coming through right now in relationality to deep energetic healing. Like this is like going like, this is like some heavy energy that we're seeing here to a certain extent in relationality to coming into the pathwork of correcting anything about oneself that you may be feeling like you've been carrying for a long time right now. Right? And what we're effectively seeing to a certain extent is for masculine and feminine energy coming into that point of recognition, it does allow for some point of like deep energetic breakthrough. But you can see why this is like feeling like heavy path work, because your ability to see someone and wanting them to come into their best version of self, it's requiring them to do a lot of, like I told you, internal digging, if you will, in relationality to like when they started to feel like that, or what they may have started to like, you know, how they may have like started to like, I want to say this is giving me like that type of like energetic self-sabotage, if you will, right? This is like doing that heavy energetic work in trying to see and feel and experience like when you started doing something in order to like get to the bottom of how to fix and change and adjust it. So for masculine and feminine energy right now in the divine union frequency, I told you something about observing something about the other person right now. It may feel like you may bring something up that may seem or feel slightly triggering. Okay? I keep seeing this coming through. These are difficult conversations in the divine union frequency, because some of this has to do with even like long-standing habits, right? Something that feels like it's pretty deep-rooted that you're working through right now. From feminine, this is coming through right now, again, in relationality to like having that energetic effort, if you will, being able to like push forward, to have that point of confidence. For masculine, this is that moment of, again, feeling like you need to rush forward, right? This is what I'm telling you. These are some like deep spaces and places that are healing things that you've been carrying for a long time, which is why I want to say, like, make sure that you're not getting triggered at this moment, because we almost see that there's something about this that like one is unpacking with another to try to understand the source or why one is moving in that way. So we want to make sure that you're in that modality, that you're allowing this to be a space or place of productivity. Masculine and feminine that are coming into divine union right now. This modality that we're seeing here, this is why I told you, this is why I was stressing to you to make sure that you're bringing forward any of these doubts, any of these uncertainties to the other. And what is effectively happening right now for the energy that is bringing forward these uncertainties and immediately getting that bomb of clarity put on them? It's intense, because the minute you recognize how easy it can be, it reminds you of all the spaces and places that may have taught you that asking that question didn't result in that immediate sense of like healing. This is that moment that suddenly you realize you haven't even started healing right now, because this is that moment of starting to heal from anything that wasn't in the divine union in the past that made you feel like you couldn't just inquire about something and immediately get that balm of like healing put towards it. So we see even now, this is like that deep unpacking, like the healing begins in the minute that someone puts the balm on it to allow you to recognize that that's where it needs to start. Masculine and feminine that are in separation, this modality is that moment that we're effectively seeing. And this is why it is like such a strong, like, this is like one of those moments, because this is effectively feeling, and what's hard about this is we're seeing that for a lot of the energy right now, making this choice is recognizing and acknowledging the emotional or spiritual connection that you may feel with someone, but also understanding and recognizing that you may be on very different paths. And that moment of identifying it, it hurts. You feel that connection to someone. You see here, you see that energetic connection by saying, I still have that connection point. My love for that person doesn't dissipate. My energetic connection to that person doesn't dissipate. It's the recognition of saying we are on very different paths. So this is almost, again, that energetic recognition of the connection point between you and another person that is requiring separation, but does not negate the fact that there isn't an emotional, spiritual bond there, right? This is because we see that when we move into the vibration of doing what we know we must do for the sake of another energetic frequency, we still maintain a potential connection to that frequency, but we just observe the difference in relationality to recognizing that we can't pull someone onto our own path. We just have to accept the fact that the connection is there, but you're on very different paths. So we see that even now for masculine and feminine coming into that point of understanding, it doesn't necessarily, it feels like, again, it almost feels like that tangible release, but feeling that energetic connection that still kind of exists between you and another person, as it were. Because again, ultimately, it's that saying of saying, I still have care for that person, but we are in very different places. They're on very different paths. There's something here that I cannot correct. So that moment of recognizing this is acknowledging and accepting that is the modality of feeling that is going to be expressed in the sense that you don't want to drag them on your path, but you still have this energetic or emotional connection to them as they continue forward on their own. For masculine and feminine, this is either the feeling and acceptance that is the case as you proceed forward from this point. While for the masculine and feminine energy, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to, that is healing. This is that moment that almost feels like a point of catharsis, because that is that moment of coming into potential restoration in terms of wanting to repair what feels like an unhealed karmic connection. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Knight of Swords in combination with our World card. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our Nine of Cups in its upright, masculine and feminine energy in the divine union frequency. This is one of those moments that, again, it does allow for that point of breakthrough. I told you, this is like that moment of taking that anxiety, taking those fears, taking those doubts, channeling them into productive spaces and places, easement. Right? What is the divine union frequency doing? Saying there's no anxiety that you can't bring forth here that we can't immediately put a balm on. There's nothing here that you can't take that uncertainty, bring it out, put it on the table so that we can sit there and we can try to energetically heal it, right? So we see even now for a lot of this, the problem with this right now has to do effectively with the way that the energy wants to address the situation and circumstance. What's feminine trying to do? Feminine's just trying to vibe with it. Feminine's not trying to go anywhere. Feminine's just trying to say I told you, the problem with this, and this is why we see even now there might be a little bit of with the other energy. Feminine's kind of taking a little bit more of that, if it ain't broke, let's not fix it. What if we try to fix it and then we break it? I told you, it's a soup thing. If everything's good, maybe we should just keep everything like this and not touch anything. Masculine's going to feminine, or hear me out. What if we made more soup? What if we added a lot to the soup? What if the soup got better? What if we made the soup super soup? This is literally the energetic problem right now between masculine and feminine. Bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. Trying to find that happy medium right now, even in the divine union, is becoming a little problematic, because this is the masculine, I told you, wanting to be what if we just did the big thing? And feminine being what if we break something if we try to do that? Let's just be chill. So, right, this is that energetic moment that we're seeing here that is requiring for both energies to feel that struggle point, because they're feeling in a way the other person's trying to lead them on the brink of disaster, because one's trying to tell them let's just stay here. Masculine's no, and feminine's being well, I'm worried about going that way. I don't know what's that way. So both of these energies are trying to find that way of finding the comfort point, but not pushing someone out of their comfort point. You get that? Pushing the envelope of one's own self, okay? That gentle nudge instead of a full throttle shove, okay? It's gentle work, Masculine and feminine, these energies, I told you, they're complementary for a reason. Do you see here how they both have a little bit that they could give the other one? See how it works? Masculine and feminine coming into divine union right now. This is why I'm gonna be so mad at you right now. If you're seeing someone moving in a way that feels weird to you or off to you, and you're assuming the worst instead of the best, because that same energetic frequency is happening right now for the energy coming into the divine union. What is it creating with the feminine? Not wanting to rush things, not wanting to mess something up, keeping a bit of a hands-off approach. If the soup's fine and it's on the stove, just leave it alone. And masculine's here trying to rush forward right now. What's the solution to this? Do you assume the worst? No, you put your cards on the table. You experience, you say to the other, I notice you're moving like that. Why? And what's the answer that the energy in the divine union is going to say? Because I care a lot now. I care. I'm trying to move. These energies are moving to the same goal in different ways. Asking the question will immediately have the balm of response instead of having that point of building towards assumption. Masculine and feminine in separation right now. This is that profound healing that's coming through right now in separation. And it's either coming in understanding, immediately that healing, coming back to the self, accountability for where you are that's allowing for breakthroughs going forward. Or that point of healing, seeing something that has the ability to come back into a state or space of rehabilitation. For feminine, this is a masculine that's coming back to feminine and saying, I understand now. I know what I need to give forth. I recognize what I need to do. I'm putting all of my cards on the table. I'm able to tell you. I'm ready to build with you. Masculine, that's a feminine coming towards masculine and saying, I'm ready to build with you. If I pushed you away at a time that you were trying to be open with me, that wasn't me rejecting you. That was me coming into that point of being surprised. And that's that energy. Again, cards on the table here, being able to fully express. Well, for a lot of this energy, though, this point of acceptance, and this is where that deep energetic healing of the self is coming in, is again, the masculine saying to a certain extent, I want... Like my desire towards a feminine may be here and it may be sacrosanct, but I'm seeing that I don't want to twist or contort. I don't want that feminine energy to twist or contort out of their own sense of self to be in union with me. This is literally the masculine energy saying, I want to be able to like almost appreciate and adore them from afar, as opposed to pulling them into a space or place that I know isn't for them. And that's coming into that space of masculine, immediately receiving that deep, intense, energetic healing. Whereas for the feminine energy in this modality, this ability right now to also recognize and understand, having that point of seeing a masculine that's coming towards you, but recognizing the difference between a masculine that understands the energy that they need to bring forth in terms of building with you versus still being in that mentality that feels like that unhealed inner child energy of demanding and wanting instead of giving forth. This is also feminine. Like that immediate healing and catharsis coming through energetically in recognizing and the value of making that choice that feels like it is the right choice, right? And that's that moment of saying, like, you know, doing the right thing isn't sometimes the easy thing. Continuing to get clarity on these cards right now between our World card in combination with our Page of Wands in its reversal. One card to clarify, please. We've got here our Five of Wands in its reversal. Masculine and feminine energy right now in the divine union frequency. This modality, or in this space or place that we're effectively seeing right now, is this moment or opportunity wherein coming through this modality, I have to stress, even for the energy in the divine union frequency, making sure that this isn't becoming a disruptive moment, recognizing the difference in discussing something for the sake of coming into something that feels like it is productive right now is incredibly energetically important, specifically because there's so much of this work that we're effectively seeing that is happening right now that feels like a point of recognizing that if you're bringing up something to someone else right now, it is not for the sake of potentially creating conflict. It is for the sake of trying to facilitate easement going forward, right? So even now we see that energetically that there's something happening right now in the divine union frequency that's almost begging to say, please don't misunderstand me. Please recognize that what is being articulated here isn't feeling like something that is being brought forth for the sake of creating conflict. It's all for the sake of recognizing what can come into even greater easement. I told you, energetic or spiritual cleaning right now that's happening in a way in the divine union frequency. Masculine and feminine energy, if you just went through the test of feeling those doubts and fears and anxieties coming through, seeing someone moving in the different vibration that you might effectively move if you were moving into divine union, and instead of creating conflict, instead of creating an accusational space, you led forth with, again, inquiry. You led forth to immediately get clarity. This is that moment that is reinforced and amplified that you coming into the heart of the divine union, because this is that moment of, again, feeling the beautiful amplification of saying, it's so easy with this energy. They make it so easy. Things that may have caused conflict in the past, no conflict. And what happens the minute you have a moment with someone that you build and you suddenly realize how easy it is? Now you start healing all the spaces and places that made you think that that had to be hard in the first place. Masculine and feminine energy coming in separation right now. This is that acceptance point. And even now we see energetically what we're recognizing here is that moment of acceptance. It almost feels like that sigh, right? Because if this is feminine energy, seeing masculine coming towards them, but in a way that feels like this is masculine that hasn't changed, that's still in that need-based mentality, that's almost expressing to the feminine, I need you, I want you, instead of saying like, I'm here to help you, I'm here to build with you. This is feminine literally looking at that energy again, almost like an unhealed inner child. And what's difficult about this right now is that feeling of feminine stepping away, is that feminine not wanting to encourage conflict with an unhealed inner child. Because what happens when you have a child that doesn't understand what's best for them, they're going to scream, they're going to be upset. And this is that feminine energy, taking that maternal energy and saying, I'm doing this for our own good because I don't want to be in a space that's a conflict space. I want you to just come into that point of emotional, energetic maturation. Right? That's why we almost see a lot of the feminine energy is kind of stepping back and saying like, I can't do it like this, and it feels heavy. It's like feminine feeling like that anxiety and guilt to a certain extent, but also feeling like they're trying to do the right thing. Even at that moment that the masculine may be feeling like that, that amplification of the energy that may have led to the separation moment in the first place. And this is feminine, again, moving forward in that way, saying, hopefully the day will come when this energy matures. Feminine's like, I know that they'll be the one to tell me, I understand now. I understand. I recognize, right? Feminine knows that the day that the masculine is coming into that space of recognition is the day that the feminine will know that, because that's the day that the masculine will bring it forward to the feminine and say, I understand now. While for masculine energy in this modality, this observational point is a feeling that for the energy here, that you're effectively moving away from. If this is an energy that you feel would have to change too much to be able to be in like union with you, we see even now that this is that moment that you are effectively stepping away energetically from someone. But again, doing so with like all of like the love and care in your own heart, because this is that moment that you're effectively saying, it's like not from a point of wanting to move away from someone due to the fact that you don't care about them. It's seeing someone that you're realizing and recognizing would have to change too much about their own self to be able to stay on the same path as you. And so we see even now like that mentality of the masculine recognizing that is also feeling like an immediate maturation moment, because that's immediately the gift that comes through from the masculine doing that is immediately healing the inner child, because that is overcoming one's own desire for someone and instead having the expression of love of saying, I want what's best for them, not what's best for me. I love them enough that I want what's best for them. So that energetic clarification, immediate karmic clearing in making that determination. Continuing forward, For the energy that's coming into a point of healing on this is that energetic moment of masculine coming towards feminine and saying, like I just said, I understand now. While for, again, the masculine energy that's having a healing moment of a feminine that may have initially rejected what you brought forth and is now coming into acceptance, this is feminine almost saying to masculine, you realize and recognize that you didn't bring that forth to me initially. And that's the masculine saying, I take accountability for that occurring, right? Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Six of Cups in its reversal and our Nine of Cups. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with Death card in its reversal. So one of the things that we're effectively seeing here, I told you, this ability to work through situations and circumstances right now in the divine union frequency. This is hard because what we're effectively seeing right now that's happening, even in that moment of coming into that point of transformation, is showing something to someone that's hard for them to change, right? We're seeing that here. I told you, these are almost like the energetic blind spots that someone is bringing forth to someone in the divine union frequency, that there may be some resistance or reluctance to change. How do we recognize that? We do a little bit of that energetic unpacking. We dig around in it. We start to investigate it. So we see even now, if the energy in the divine union is experiencing a moment wherein someone in the divine union is bringing something forth to you to show you about yourself, and you're feeling that reluctance, that moment of reluctance is almost that point of personal inquiry, because you're going, well, why am I feeling so reluctant about that? It's because it's like, I told you, it's an energetic blind spot. It's like, it's that moment that you're potentially seeing, that someone's showing you something that you didn't necessarily see. And it's making you kind of dig around and be like, have I always been like this? How long have I been like this? Because this is the beauty of a clear mirror. This is someone bringing something forward, not to try to like mold them into what they want you to be. This is someone that's doing this from the space or state of like showing you something that like they're trying to like amplify and say like, I'm just showing you this because I want you to recognize that you can adjust or modify and change that to come into a better version of your own self. So we see even now, I told you, this is that scratchy sweater stuff. This is a little hard to navigate because like it's something that's like, you know, it's a little, it can be a little like, I told you, this is like that cringe moment, right? It's hard, okay? But even now we see, and that what's helping through this is almost someone saying like, that's that moment of recognizing that it's coming from a positive place, right? It's coming from a place that feels like it's not trying to like, you know, adjust you in a way that doesn't feel like it's for your best interest. It's almost showing you something to say, do with it as you will. Masculine and feminine coming into divine union right now, one of the things that we're effectively seeing is that modality where, again, if you had this breakthrough moment where you started having these doubts, fears, and anxieties, but instead of holding back, you led forth with them, you expressed them, you articulated them to one another, what immediately happens in that moment? You feel the ease of coming into divine union, and then you have a minute of energetic clarity in terms of any experience in the past wherein you didn't necessarily get that. Now the healing begins, because that moment of how easy it can be suddenly gives you clarity on all the spaces and places wherein it wasn't easy. Masculine and feminine in separation. This is that modality that is articulating what feels like it can come into positive energetic connection versus what is that feeling of potentially having to recognize that you're creating almost like, again, you can't necessarily, you just have to accept it. You can't really, you just accept that there's an unhealed karmic connection, right? The point of accepting is recognizing and saying effectively, yes, I have an energetic connection with someone. We're in very different places. We desire very different things. That doesn't devoid or discount the fact that there's an energetic connection there, but that's that moment of saying that the inviolability point in something was the fact that you have a connection with someone, but you're on very different paths. So even recognizing this right now, that point of acceptance is allowing for a lot of the energetic breakthrough, because that in itself is the karmic clearing in a way. Because that ability of not saying, I'm going to try to like pull that energy onto like my karmic path, I'm just going to accept that that is the way that it is healing on your own energetic level, because that's the difference between recognizing what you need to effectively energetically accept versus what you feel is actually energetically in your power to change. It's difficult. And we see that for some of the energy right now, it's effectively feeling like that moment of holding and recognizing you have to hold space for what feels like an unhealed karmic connection. But that is effectively what we recognize and identify we often need to do as we move through, because immediately that is that point of emotional or energetic breakthrough that comes through in recognizing that that is the case. Like, in a way, that almost effectively, is the moment of like energetic closure in observing that that is like, like that's like I don't want to say the unfinished assignment, if you will, but it almost feels like that moment of just identifying and recognizing that that is the state of things, Continuing to get clarity on this, though, we see that for a lot of the energy in separation right now, this observational point, if you will, is what is effectively recognizing and identifying right now the ability to heal something. So this is the breakthrough energy that we're effectively seeing around circumstances and situations around this point that we are seeing and identifying may potentially allow right now for that point of healing. And the healing is effectively either coming through right now in someone that is energetically approaching, especially towards feminine, to say and effectively articulate and say, the way that we were connecting in the past was completely wrong, right? That starts with someone saying, I understand and recognize. That's that ability. Whereas we also see that for the masculine, this observational point of, again, a feminine basically amplifying and saying the way that something was left, the way that we were moved away from something, wasn't that we weren't in alignment. It was that you brought something forward to me and I was surprised at a time that I received it. So we see here that there is some energetic catharsis that's coming through, some healing paths that are happening here. It's coming from the observation of the difference between what can be functionally changed versus what can't be internally adjusted. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Nine of Cups in combination with our Five of Wands in its reversal. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with Temperance. So one of the things that we're seeing right now that's really important, I told you, for the masculine energy right now in the divine union frequency, this is that moment of kind of like holding fast or holding firm in relationality to patience. Because what we're effectively seeing right now for a lot of the masculine energy is what is happening right now in the divine union frequency. For the energy and the frequency, the feminine wants to slow down. The feminine doesn't want to is worried about affecting the status quo. Masculine wants to drive forth. So we see even now that ability to find that point of navigation is requiring a little bit of energetic patience for both energies, right? For feminine, pushing forward in terms of like the limitations of where you're comfortable adapting and changing right now. Masculine pulling back to meet the feminine. We're seeing that across both the masculine and feminine energy, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to, both in the heart of the divine union frequency and coming into it. Though coming into it right now, this ability not to allow for the way that you saw someone moving, not allowing it to create a conflict space, but leading forth with a place of clarity and communication. This is showing energetically the ability to move into the divine union frequency because, again, you're not letting yourself move immediately on what you're feeling. You're not letting that expression of fear just drive you forward in different directions. You're taking that pause point. You're considering. That is the gift that you're recognizing. If it's easy, it's because you've been doing that work on yourself. You're creating that state of, again, objectivity, being able to assess and analyze what you're feeling and articulate it, as opposed to just letting yourself dash around from chasing after your anxieties and fears. Final card for today's spread. For masculine and feminine energy right now in separation, that ability, this is that moment that we're seeing that even for the energy, both the energy that's coming into healing and the energy that is recognizing that there's pathwork here that isn't in a healed state, this is taking that wait and see approach, right? I told you, for the energy that's seeing the fact that there's some kind of possibility of healing here, being able to recognize that words are one thing, but actions are another is being amplified. So even now we see a lot of slowness coming forward in this to see that, take that wait and see approach to see if what someone is expressing is something that can be seen and observed in their actions. While as for the masculine and feminine energy and separation that's come into a point of acceptance of the unhealed karmic connection that may be forming right now, in accepting that one feels an energetic or spiritual connection to someone whose like own path work is not in the same space or place as yours right now. This is almost having that moment, especially if you're relinquishing it, of the profound hope in someone recognizing that why you're moving in this way is meant to be moving forward in a way that feels like it's trying to facilitate healing. This is that hope and aspiration of effectively not wanting to be misunderstood and hoping that someone can see that expression that will either lead to some kind of karmic restoration in the future, or at least that point of like deep personal understanding when someone is able to recognize the fact that that is that difference in pathwork, if you will. Like that sense or that sensation of saying like, I hope that you understand someday. But that almost like that amplification for some of this energy right now, if you've tried to express this to someone and they're not receiving it or understanding it, it's almost that moment of saying, I hope one day they will. Final card for today's spread between our Death card in its reversal and our Temperance card. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now. Look at this. Look at this hope that we've got here. Because what we're effectively seeing right now across all the frequencies is this sense of effectively putting a lot of care and patience and energetic effort into circumstances and situations. In relationality to the energy that's in the divine union frequency, this point of observation feels to a certain extent like, again, the benefit, the ability of the divine union frequency is that constant, perpetual expansion. That ability to recognize and identify the difference between a personal limitation versus one that you're being shown, to be able to come into a point of like adjustment, like that in itself is effectively the gift right now in the divine union frequency. It feels a little bit more energetically difficult right now because recognizing that energetic blind spot, if you will, may be requiring something that is leading you to have to like put some kind of invested energetic effort in how to come into a point of modification on it. For masculine specifically, this slowing down may feel a little bit more energetically difficult, as it were, because this is that energy of feminine needing to rush forward. Both energies feeling anxiety on the way, but finding that like peace in the realm of like what feels like it is navigating the comfort level. Masculine and feminine coming into divine union right now. This recognition, this ability, as it were, in relationality to seeing a moment that would have potentially led to separation. Having that moment of seeing an anxiety, doubt, and fear, but instead of leading yourself to like run off and assume the worst, having that energy of putting forward, taking that fear, just bringing it forth, getting that immediate like bomb of like clarification, almost like immediate overamplification of someone trying to heal something when you start to have that anxiety. That's the breakthrough in terms of feeling like you're coming into divine union frequency, because suddenly you realize that like, you know, the frequency has room for uncertainty. That's the beauty of it. Masculine and feminine in separation right now. This is that moment of effective identification and what feels like it can come into a healing space versus something that feels energetically like there is that limitation factor. Again, the gift coming through on a lot of this is almost like that amplification of saying like, it's not your responsibility to heal someone that's not in the modality of healing. It's almost that acceptance that someone might be like in a different path or going in a different direction. So we see even now like a lot of that like energetic catharsis that comes through. You know, it's almost the catharsis of understanding. You know, it doesn't necessarily make it easier, but it, like, you know, to a certain extent, understanding does offer that sense of clarity that feels in a way like that moment of personal triumph, as it were. Because that's, again, the pathwork of masculine and feminine, seeing some kind of potential, either, again, coming into something that shows an ability to heal and feeling validated for having to have some point of like modification to be able to allow that to occur. Or this is that energetic moment of seeing something and recognizing and saying, We are in different spaces. We want and desire different things, and that's okay too. It's not my responsibility to try to pull them over here. It's just it's just the acceptance of recognizing that that is the way that it is. And that point is like creating a lot of internal catharsis right now for a lot of the energy and separation. Bottom of the deck on this reading right now is Seven of Pentacles in its reversal. I told you, one of the difficulties that's happening right now has to do with timing. Recognizing and identifying the difference of energy that wants the same things but may have a different way of going about it or has a different timeline is heavily at play right now for the energy in the divine union frequency or coming into the divine union frequency. That's requiring a little bit of modification in relationality to making sure that you're on the same page in terms of making sure that, like, and I even see this here, the difference between someone slowing something down because they want something to perpetually be in a state that it's in versus wanting to effectively change and having some kind of like path work here that articulates what those changes are. So we see even now getting that point of clarification may feel like a little bit of a struggle point here, which is why we see even now that's some of that difficulty or hurdle that may be being experienced because it's creating a lot of that uncertainty for some energy right now. We work through it by articulating on it, by planning around it, right? Well, for the masculine and feminine in separation right now, you know, some of this energy has already taken a wait and see approach if this is coming into healing before. So this modality even now is that moment of feeling like someone needs to see effective change because someone is effectively feeling that anxiety or uncertainty and recognizing if this is a healing point, if there's something here that can actually change, or if this is something that someone's saying that they can, but they're not showing the tangibility like vector. That is our daily collective, and for a lot of the energy right now that's in separation, that point of observing, I have to stress, this is that sense of accountability coming into play, because again, that there's a lot of energy here in separation of feeling like a lot of considerable effort came into some of those spaces that may have led to separation. So it's almost that feeling of frustration in feeling the weight of like how much was put into something and feeling like you need to effectively move away from it. But it's almost that moment of acceptance in not wanting to overgive to something that you feel like isn't matching you in kind, or isn't not matching you in kind, or isn't in alignment, or isn't aligned. That is our daily collective read for today. I want to thank you guys so much for being here and experiencing it. Just a reminder, if you would like to book a private reading with me, you can book one on my website, graystrega.com. My private readings are done over video, and if you are a subscriber to my TikTok, you can take 10% off any of my services when you pay. Just mention your subscriber name at the point of payment. Please keep in mind, if you book a private reading with me, it is a two-step process. You have to book the reading, you have to pay for the reading. Please make sure you do both if you'd like to have that reading. Most importantly, please remember that I will never, ever, 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 ever reach out to you for a private reading. I'll never DM you. I'll never PM you. I will never slide into your inbox and tell you that I have a very important message that only I can deliver. The only way you can book a reading with me is if you book one on my website. So I encourage you to do it there. I want to thank you guys so much for being here today with me and sharing in these messages. And we will do this again tomorrow.